I once had a rabbinic colleague who served in a community where the Orthodox presence was not only strong, but also openly critical of Reform Judaism. In the local Jewish newspaper, one of the Orthodox rabbis wrote a column attacking Reform Judaism by claiming that Reform Jews make stuff up. I mean, really, what about, it's really meaningful, but what about religion isn't made up? Let's just be honest. We're a Reform congregation. Doesn't take any of the power away from it for us to say that. My colleague took the bait and wrote a rebuttal. And instead of denying the charge, he embraced it. Yes, he wrote, Reform Jews do make stuff up, in the sense that we're willing to modify inherited Jewish practice to make it more meaningful, more relevant, and more just. It was a provocative response, and not everyone appreciated it. But it captured something essential about Reform Judaism. It's not a dismissal of tradition, it's a particular way of understanding how Torah lives. This week's Torah portion, Yitro, helps us see why. Reform Judaism begins with a conviction that's often misunderstood and sometimes caricatured, that Judaism is not frozen in time, that Torah is not a closed system, that revelation did not end at Sinai, but continues through the actions, ideas, and moral insight and ethical responsibility of every generation. This is frequently mistaken for a rejection of tradition. In truth, it's a claim about the nature of tradition itself. Reform Judaism insists that Torah is a guide, not a governor. That's a line by, in any case, that's important. Torah is for guidance, not governance. That's a very late 19th century Reform statement that still rings very strong. The tradition is valuable, but it has no authority over us ultimately. We decide the role of Torah in our lives within the reality of the world around us. I just don't want to go by that quickly. This is really the radical move of Reform Judaism, which at its time was so radical that each individual person ultimately has the authority over their religious beliefs and practices. Absolutely revolutionary in the 1860s when they came up with it. This is not a new idea, so there I flip. The Torah and the ancient rabbis were well aware of it. Parshat Yitro makes that unmistakably clear. Before the thunder and the lightning, before the commandments were etched in stone, before the story of God speaking to Moses, the Torah is given in this Torah portion. The Torah tells a story about how after Sinai, the Torah is in human hands and in the hands of not one person. No one, not even Moses, is completely entrusted with the interpretation of Torah. Moses, the greatest prophet that our tradition will ever know, is exhausted. From morning until night, he sits alone, judging every dispute, answering every question, carrying the full weight of the people on his shoulders. And Yitro, his father-in-law, a Midianite priest, an outsider, looks at Moses and says something simple. Lo tov hadavar asher ata oseh. What you're doing is not good. Literally, this is not a good thing you're doing. He's just right there. Is that a father-in-law line or what? He doesn't say it's a transgression. He just says it's not good. Yitro names what Moses cannot yet see. No human being can carry all authority, all wisdom, all judgment, not even Moses. Leadership must be shared, responsibility must be distributed, justice must be accessible. A system that depends on a single voice, especially a prophetic one, will eventually collapse. Yitro proposes a structure, leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s, a layered system of authority that acknowledges human limitation and communal responsibility. Only then, he says, will both Moses and the people be able to endure. Only then does the story of the events at Sinai begin this happens before the giving of Torah. It's setting up a process before the actual giving. The sequence matters. The Torah insists that revelation does not override human reality. It requires it. Revelation depends on systems, on shared leadership, on humility. Before God speaks, humans must learn how to listen, to go beyond their certainty. Judaism begins not with infallibility, but with an expansion into all of the complexities of lived human experience. The rabbis push this insight even further in one of the Talmud's most surprising passages. A story, like many in the Talmud, which sees Moses as more of some sort of a humble superhero or something like this. There are all these stories in the Talmud where especially Elijah operates a lot like a comic book character. And Moses in this case shows up. Well, you'll see what his magic powers are now. He ascends to heaven, as we all do, of course. And he finds God adding crowns to the letters of the Torah. If you've seen a Torah scroll up closely, certain letters, the Shin and the Nun, have these little 3 crowns that are written on them by the scribe. And these ornamental strokes seem unnecessary. So Moses asks God, why is he taking the time to add them? And God explains that in future generations, a scholar named Rabbi Akiva will derive heaps and heaps of laws from these crowns. Not the letters, not the words, not the sentences, not the laws, but even the crowns possess heaps and heaps of Torah within them. So Moses asks to meet Rabbi Akiva. And Moses is suddenly transported, again the superhero stuff, to the back of Rabbi Akiva's classroom. The Talmud then tells us something that comes out of nowhere. Moses, sitting in the back of Rabbi Akiva's classroom, where they're studying Torah, understands absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing that is being taught. The Torah being taught bears no resemblance to the Torah he knows, the Torah he was given. He becomes disoriented. So what's happened to the portrayal of Moses as the greatest prophet? A student asked Rabbi Akiva, here we go. I think it just goes stronger and stronger. A student then asked Rabbi Akiva for the source of these teachings that Moses doesn't understand. And Akiva answers, it is a law given to Moses at Sinai. Moses, who was given the Torah, no longer understands it because the rabbis have interpreted it into an unrecognizable set of laws. Judaism's always Reform Judaism. Always. It's not new. We're moving things along a little bit faster, but it's not a new idea at all. Foundational to the way that Judaism works. Torah was created with surplus meaning, room for interpretation, disagreement, and expansion. Fidelity to Sinai does not mean freezing Torah in time. It means trusting future generations to uncover meanings that earlier ones could not see. Reform Judaism does not invent this idea. The Reform movement teaches that Judaism is a living religious civilization shaped through the encounter between inherited texts and contemporary moral consciousness. That revelation continues not through new commandments, but through study, ethical reflection, historical awareness, and human responsibility. And this is why Reform Judaism holds tradition and autonomy together, which is a way of saying we have the autonomy. Why we believe in informed choice. Informed choice essentially means that what we have a responsibility to do is to study Torah, to learn it. And if we can't study it ourselves, study it with somebody else. But ultimately, once we have studied it, better yet, experience it. Go out there and experience it. Don't just study it. And once you've learned it, once you've done it, then you make a choice of what its role is in your life. Is it meaningful? Is it ethical? These are the driving forces of these individual choices. Informed choice. So authority matters, but it's ours. Tradition binds, but it doesn't silence. Change is not the enemy of holiness. Thoughtlessness is, right? There's a profound responsibility in this vision. As I like to say to my Orthodox friends with a twinkle in my eye, Reform Judaism is harder than Orthodox Judaism. All you have to do is obey. We have to make difficult choices. Twinkle in my eye. Even Moses needed help. He couldn't do it himself. He had to hand the responsibility off to others. Which brings us back to the newspaper column. When Reform Jews are accused of making stuff up, what is really being challenged is the idea that Judaism entrusts each generation with responsibility rather than demanding passive obedience. Reform Judaism does not claim that anything new is automatically good, but it does insist that nothing sacred can remain frozen. We do not make things up carelessly. We engage with Torah courageously. We argue with it. We test it against lived experience. We add our own crowns to its letters, not to erase Sinai, but to honor it. And Parshat Yitro reminds us that revelation begins not with unquestioning obedience, but with humility and human imperfection. That may be the most enduring lesson of all. The holiness of Judaism lies not in its perfection, but in its capacity to grow beyond its origins. Every moment we stand again at Sinai. Shabbat Shalom.